National Guard are bait. They were always supposed to be bait. At least, according to this administration, which is why I think this DC shooting should be a moment of very serious reckoning with that fact for members of the National Guard, as well as, by the way, members of ICE, law enforcement agencies, the armed forces. You are tools of provocation. We talk a lot about how this administration is very clearly trying to provoke unrest and the harm that comes to those who are targeted. But we don't talk enough about those who are being used to do the targeting. You are expendable to them. They are using you to provoke. And yes, I mean you too, if you're involved in the boat attacks or anything like that. Though I do suspect some ICE officers are well aware of this. Otherwise, why would they be spending so much time going after non-violent non-criminals as opposed to the ones that they're probably more scared of? And just in case you have no idea what I'm talking about, 2 National Guard members in D.C. were reportedly shot today. While it was first reported that they had lost their lives, apparently they are actually in critical condition. And while many of us condemn this in no uncertain terms, we're also completely unsurprised. This was their goal. Mind you, the suspect has already been apprehended, and according to officials on the ground, it was a lone wolf attack. So what is the purpose of 500 more National Guard troops in D.C.? You contradict yourselves. You know that your purpose to this administration is not to make this country safer. It is to bait this country. And they don't care what happens to you in that process. Actually, that's not quite true, though, is it? They only care about how useful you are to them. And if you're more useful to them when you're injured or, God forbid, dead, that's what they want. What happened today did not need to happen. And it is not those National Guard members' fault that they were shot today. But it is Trump's. Remember that.
The guy was vetted by the CIA because he was working with the CIA in Afghanistan. He was working with the CIA in Afghanistan. So how are you going to tell us that he was not vetted? He came to America. You thought he just retired? He was on the beach somewhere? If he was working with the CIA and he knew the faces of the CIA, when he came to America, he probably was working with the CIA to infiltrate sleeper cells in Muslim communities to work with the CIA. You're not going to sit here and try to give me an account strike and shut me up for saying how the CIA didn't know that this man did that shit. It sounds like a psyop to hearten the disposition of the National Guards against the American citizenry, to change the rules of engagement, how the National Guard looks at the American citizens. And now you need 500 more National Guard troops for a guy who allegedly drove from Washington State all the way to Washington, D.C. He could have stopped in Portland. He could have stopped in Chicago. He could have stopped in Tennessee. But he chose to drive all the way to Washington, D.C. to do this to 2 National Guards. You're not going to lie to us. You're not going to lie to us. So if I was the governor, like I said, I would pull my troops out of Washington, D.C. I would pull my National Guards out of there. Because how could this be possible? And you're trying to make it a red and blue thing, but the protocols and procedures for the CIA and vetting of former military coming to the United States of foreign nations should not be blue or red. It should be protocols and procedures, and this should be it should go through multiple administrations. Nothing should have changed. He was a foreign military man that came to the United States. So how you don't have eyes on him? You're lying. You're all lying, and you're trying to do this against the National Guard so the National Guard can do whatever you got planned in Washington, D.C. What you're doing in America, what you're doing against the citizenry, and what you're doing with the troops and against the Constitution is wrong. And the Republicans should be ashamed of themselves for being enough cowards to not say anything and save their children and their grandchildren from what they plan to have carried out in this damn country. The guy was vetted by the CIA, and you're not going to sit up there and think that if you're in the CIA and you retire, you're just not in the CIA no more. No. Why do you think Eric Snowden ran to Russia? He could have got a pardon or something for what he did. But he left Russia. He left America to go to Russia because he know once you in the CIA, you're never out. It's like a gang. pull a wool over our